Malaika sat, more worried than she had ever been. This time not about her children, but the so-called rules, especially rule number 3. Who obliges his wives to leave their homes at specific hours of a specific day. This wasn't good news, and she certainly had questions. While she pondered over all these, there is a loud knock on the door. Malaika opened the door. Standing before her was an old woman, short, hunched, with deep-set eyes and skin folded like ancient parchment. Rebecca, Zechariah's mother. Her smile stretched wide across her wrinkled face as she reached for Malaika's hands. Words tumbled from her lips, some in a dialect Malaika barely understood. But the warmth needed no translation. She was welcomed, blessed even, kissed on the forehead, touched on the shoulders, the kind of welcome that dances between genuine affection and ancient obligation. Then came Christiana, pregnant, composed, and oddly polite, this time bearing a bowl of hot food. "Since today isn't market day," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "perhaps you can manage this." Moments later, Rebecca insisted she too had made yams. She shuffled away to fetch them. And just as the house began to quiet, another arrival, 6 women, each with a basket of gifts, wives of Zechariah's younger brothers from a nearby village. Their arms were full, their voices louder than welcome demanded. Laughter grew, plates were laid, food was served, the house swelled with noise and bodies. For a moment, Malaika forgot to be afraid. That evening, Malaika learned new dance steps and made some friends. It began to feel like home. 2 weeks passed. Zechariah decided it was time. He and Malaika drove out to visit her family. Elizabeth, ever strong, sat in the yard preparing a basket of fish for market. Alice, Malaika's second child, worked beside her, giggling. When they saw the car, both dropped everything. Malaika stepped out. Behind her, Zechariah carried gifts. Clothes, rice, oil, tokens of wealth. Chairs were brought out. The family sat. Then Zechariah spoke. He wanted Malaika's children to come live with them. "There is enough room," he said. "A family should be whole." Elizabeth's eyes narrowed. It was too soon. 2 weeks of marriage could not raise a foundation. She refused. Zechariah pressed harder. Elizabeth stood her ground. Malaika stayed silent. At last, Elizabeth gave a sliver of agreement. Emilie, the youngest, could go, for now, just to be near her mother. The rest would wait. That evening, they left with Emilie. And that was the beginning of another problem. That night, Emilie couldn't sleep. She trembled in Malaika's arms, whimpering about shadows that had no owners, about women without legs, and people floating in the air. Every night, it got worse. Malaika prayed. She sang. She whispered scriptures into Emilie's ears. Nothing helped. Zechariah dismissed it all. "Children have imagination," he said. "Ignore it." But Malaika couldn't. One morning, Emilie pointed at a woman in the market and screamed. "She's one of them!" she cried. More accusations followed. Always women, always eyes wide in fear. The village murmured. Heads turned when Malaika passed. Fingers pointed. "That's the one with the possessed child," they whispered. Malaika apologized again and again, but the damage was done. Then came the silence. Emilie fell ill, feverish, weak, unresponsive. She wouldn't eat, wouldn't move. Her eyes stared blankly ahead, as though watching something only she could see. Malaika tried everything. Herbs, prayers, baths. Nothing worked. And just like that, the house, once full of festive laughter, grew quiet again. Terribly quiet. Malaika sat at Emilie's bedside, her eyes dry but heavy, her heart quietly shattering. Days had gone by, doctors came and went, all shaking their heads. There was nothing medically wrong with the child, yet Emilie's body refused to respond. Rebecca's herbs, though brewed with care, had failed this time. The quiet inside the house was deafening. And then, on a Friday morning, a knock at the door. It was Elizabeth. Malaika gasped. She wondered how her mother was able to get here. How did she get the address? She hadn't even told her mother what was happening. But Zechariah's home was no secret, not in a place where people talk, and a man like him moves like thunder. She opened the door, and for the first time in weeks, her knees weakened, not from fear, but from the relief of seeing her mother. Elizabeth said nothing at first. She stepped in like she'd lived there her whole life. She asked only one question. "Where is my grandchild?" When she saw Emilie lying like a leaf in the harmattan wind, she didn't cry, she didn't panic. She simply reached out and picked her up. Her words were soft, but final. When someone wants to destroy a house, they start with the smallest stone. When the homeowner is the target, they go through the dog. She turned and walked out. Later that day, when Zechariah returned home and learned what had happened, his calm shattered like clay in fire. He beat Malaika, hard, without restraint. His words exploded louder than his fists. "You dare let things happen here, without my knowledge, in my house." Malaika had seen many faces of Zechariah, the smooth-talking suitor, the stern husband, the boastful provider. But this was a monster without a mask. This was the truth. That night, silence wrapped the compound again. Only Malaika's sobs could be heard beneath the rhythm of distant crickets. By morning, the bruises bloomed like bitter tattoos across her skin. She moved slowly, each breath a reminder. With what little strength she had, she went to Rebecca. The old woman listened with eyes that had seen too much. And when Malaika begged for guidance, for safety, for something, Rebecca answered without blinking. "Marriage is full of ups and downs. If you stay respectful, these things won't happen." Malaika didn't respond. She simply stood, nodded, and walked away. But inside her, something broke. Or maybe something began to awaken. When Malaika returned from Rebecca's that evening, the sky had already softened into dusk. But the light wasn't the only thing that had changed. Zechariah was on his knees in the middle of the room. His eyes, wet and pleading, looked up at her like a child, desperate for forgiveness. His voice, cracked and tender, told a story of a man in love and in fear. "I'm sorry," he said. "I was afraid you were slipping away. I love you, Malaika. I want you, and your children, as mine." He spoke of building a home filled with laughter, of sending the children to the best schools, of shielding her from everything that once caused her pain. And to a mother's heart, there are few doors more open than the ones that speak of her children. So Malaika stood there, bruised but breathing, torn between fear and hope, between history and future. She listened, and she forgave. She told herself this would be the last time, that maybe, just maybe, this man was fighting his own demons, and that love, if truly present, could cast them out. She agreed to try again, to rebuild. She leaned into the soft promise of peace, but what she didn't know was that peace, when forced, never lasts, and Zechariah's promise was only the beginning of a storm yet to come.